Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Right Side. Doug Billings here. Another tragic event in a school in America. Today, I'm going to take you down the road to explanation as to why the radical left doesn't have a clue as to what is going on with these violent acts and how their policies, their platforms, and the politics of the radical left actually enable these kinds of things to happen. They don't want anything to do, the radical left, with police, law and order, and using laws that are already on the books and more than adequate to at least curb this kind of violence. They blame it on guns, and they do it on purpose because they want to erode the Second Amendment. All of that explained today, ladies and gentlemen. It's tragic, and I'm going to tell you all about it right now. The Right Side with Doug Billings is now upon you. Are you ready? Let's go.
Hey, everybody. My name is General Mike Flynn, and I'm here to do a big shout out for my great friend and one of the best in the business, Mr. Doug Billings. Right Side with Doug Billings, Right Side with Doug Billings. Doug is the future of the airwaves when it comes to independent broadcasters and podcasters. He is the new Rush Limbaugh. He's exactly what America needs right now, looking for honesty, looking for wisdom, looking for truth, looking for patriotism. Listen to Doug Billings at Right Side with Doug Billings. God bless you and God bless America, and thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are winning. We're winning, winning, winning. Welcome to The Right Side with Doug Billings. Are you ready?
We are not liberal snowflakes who melt away in the face of tragedy, adversity, and challenge. We are a covenant nation under God, and His divine providence is not dead and it's not gone. It is living within each and every one of you. And you will bring it to life in such a way that the world has never seen before. We never back down. We never give up. We march forward.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, and thank you very much for joining me today. We do always, every day, stand shoulder to shoulder, you and I, and on days like today, even more necessary than most, to stand shoulder to shoulder as we work our way through another tragedy in America, faced with a violent crime, tragedy, lives lost, a school shooting. Our prayers go out to everyone involved, especially the victims at Appalachia High School in Barrow County, Georgia. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, yes, prayer is where we begin, always. And to those who would dare to say that your prayers aren't enough, those people that say that aren't believers anyway. They don't believe in the power of prayer, and they are misguided. Those are the people who have purposefully excommunicated God out of what they believe in with regards to society and politics. We always meet, you and I, in determined prayer and determined patriotism. That is us. That's how we roll over here. We don't turn to prayer with an unreasonable expectation that it will all of a sudden and miraculously somehow stop the tragedy of gun violence or any kind of violence in the world. But we do turn to prayer for comfort and for the ability especially to seek wisdom with regards to how to act to best curtail this kind of violence, to at least stem the tide of it all. We know that we live in a free society, and in a free society, there is always going to be, unfortunately, the existence of evil and the possibility of violent crime. There is no way to eliminate it completely. There's nothing that we can do that will ever stop crime in our world. We are fallen. But what's left then for us to consider as we do pursue and seek wisdom is to understand what it is that might be the best course of action to take that would at least slow down this trend of crime and to stem the tide of it all, to impede crime. For the sake of this conversation, I want to make a few points with you today. Some points about what I call, as you know, the Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. I want to talk with you today about their policies, their platform, their politics. And in the show today, I'm going to open up the phone lines eventually, and I want to talk with you about this. This is important for us all to understand. The radical liberal and I might add anti-American movement in this country has demonstrated only a desire to enable and to facilitate crime. They do not put forth policy or politics or platforms that will reduce it. As I always say, evidence of the obvious is sufficient. All we need do is look around the Republic, at every blue state, at every liberal candidate, and look at their actions, look at the policies they put in place. How can I say it? How can I possibly come to the conclusion that the radical left enables violence? Because evidence of all of this is around us, clearly visible to anybody with any sense of intellectual maturity. The radical left Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, puts forth policies that strive to do these things. And this will surprise none of you who pay attention and who watch this show, at least, on a regular basis. The radical liberal movement in America puts forth policies that defund the police, that open our borders, refuse to quell violent acts. They advocate, in fact, riots, looting, arson, and anarchy. How can I say that? Because they don't do anything to stop it, or at least they let it prevail for several days, if not weeks, before they take action. They avoid prosecuting violent criminals or criminals of any kind with extreme prejudice. They don't go after them with the full force of the law that is already on the books. They refuse to apply strong anti-crime laws that are clearly already available to us. The radical left prosecutors, district attorneys, and states attorneys general give, in general, light sentences. And if they are sentenced, they are oftentimes released early. I could go on and on about this. And there are items that are, these things are not my opinion, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you things that the radical left party, the anti-American movement in this country, is doing and has done. They are a matter of fact, and they are a matter of record. We have, ladies and gentlemen, two people running for the president and vice president of our country who belong to the radical left Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Each of them, by virtue of their record, by virtue of what they believe in, their political ideology, and what they strive for and what they allow and what they don't allow, have put forth policy followed by their actions that have enabled dramatic scenes of chaos, crisis, and crime. They both believe in defunding the police. They both believe in the elimination of law and order. Oh, they'll talk a good game this year because it's an election year. And they'll change their mind and they'll try to change their words, but look at their past actions. And that's what I'm going to do with you today. Tim Walz is a monster. He is not your friendly neighborhood grandfather. As governor of Minnesota, Walz not only allowed it, but he enabled massive riots to take place, looting, murder, rape, arson, anarchy, especially in Minneapolis, but throughout the state. For 3 days in the summer of 2021, riots and arson and anarchy reigned in Minnesota, and Governor Walz did nothing about it. That's just one example. Doesn't go into the whole LGBTQ kook movement that he supports and the myth, the fiction that children can somehow find happiness in this world because they believe in this mythological misappropriation of gender nonsense. They can find happiness and wonder and joy if they just mutilate their genitalia. That's all they need to. That's what Tim Walz and the radical left movement in this country advocate. Child abuse. Kamala Harris acted in tandem with Tim Walz during that time frame in 2021. The same thing. Defund the police. Get rid of law and order. Take it all down. Don't prosecute to the full extent of the law. Let them out early. And she set up funding mechanisms so that the people who were committing arson and anarchy, rape, riots, and murder in Minnesota could get themselves bailed out of jail. Why? Because they want them back on the streets, ladies and gentlemen. Radical liberals like Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and all of the rest of them who are either, like I said, state attorneys general, county prosecutors, district attorneys, etc. They do not use existing and, by the way, very adequate laws to prosecute criminals with extreme prejudice, to go after them, to throw the book at them. Criminals are given light sentences, early releases, and a carte blanche ability to get right back on the streets and continue where they left off. I mean, that's supposing that they're even charged at all. Many times they're captured, they got the criminal, they got the bad guy, and charges are dropped. Happens all the time. And it happens in blue states. States that are run, led, and managed by members of the radical, liberal, communist-socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. And I'm sick of it, as I know you are too. We see it every day, and we see it in dozens of different kinds of scenarios. Whether it's a result of defunding the police, can't get anybody near you, there's no community police involvement at all. The police are it's so demoralized by this. Numbers are down, recruiting efforts are in terrible shape. And who can blame these people? Open borders and illegal immigration, one of the key factors in this election cycle. And it is only there, this open border crisis is only there for two reasons. One, they want these people to come in here and become a part of their new electoral base, to cheat, to vote, to try to sway the election. And number two, they want the criminals and the bad guys to come in because, again, the radical left liberal movement in this country, evidence of the obvious is sufficient, want violence on the streets. There is no other possible conclusion to draw. Otherwise, why would they open the borders? Why would they defund the police? Illegal drugs, fentanyl in record numbers. There's enough to kill, last time I heard, every man, woman, and child in this country twice, if not more. Child and human trafficking, all part of what's going on in this country as a result of the border. And then, of course, you have governors like Tim Walz, who, because of their policies and because of their inaction, when they see crisis and chaos begin, they don't take action because it's part of their playbook. And so the riots and the anarchy begin. And you'd better believe they have a hand in the pallets of rocks, bricks, and stones that are oftentimes delivered to street corners of American cities that are enduring such riots to be thrown through the storefront windows of businesses in that town. The radical left hierarchy sees to this. Again, ladies and gentlemen, what other conclusions can we draw? Radical, liberal, communist-socialists, again, formerly known as the Democrats. They are not Democrats. They've blended communism and socialism together. They want, and this is important, they want violence. They want chaos and crisis in America. And while admittedly that may sound shocking to some of you, look around. And I ask you for the third time, what other conclusion can we draw? Why is it perfectly legitimate to believe this about them? Because we see it. Joy and happiness, my backside. Because of their policies, because of their politics, because of the things that we see them do, from, again, defunding the police to opening the borders, riots and anarchy, chaos and crisis. and especially their failure to prosecute with extreme prejudice these violent criminals who commit such actions. Now, thankfully, today's events took place in a state where action is taken. The events, tragic as they may be, at least we know there's conservatives in control down there, and this will be dealt with the full force of the law. When they happen in other blue states, not so much. It's when you look at the left, when you look at people like Kamala Harris, people like Tim Walz, the entire radical liberal hierarchy, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, we can go down the list, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, all of them within the hierarchy. It's their actions that prove the points that I'm making with you today. The radical left liberal hierarchy, ladies and gentlemen, has no intention of setting in motion anything that can bring about joy and happiness. Look at their actions. What they set in motion is chaos and crisis. And my friends, it is done on purpose. All right, a lot more to talk about, a lot more to get into, a lot more opinion, a lot more evidence of the obvious about all of this. I want to remind you about my website, DougBillings.us. I appreciate you, all of you who have headed over there to help me out. I'm in an active campaign to seek sponsorships. I'm a viewer-sponsored show. Your support is how I continue to produce and offer the show to you. So DougBillings.us is the website. And I ask you to prayerfully consider heading over there and setting up a monthly recurring donation to the program. Doesn't have to be big, 5, 10, 15, 20 bucks, whatever you can afford on a monthly recurring basis at DougBillings.us. And you notice I never charge you for the show. It's always free. I just ask you to prayerfully consider what is the truth and what is the state of play, the analysis that I provide. What is it worth? Head over to DougBillings.us. We're in an active campaign, I am, to solicit more subscribers and more sponsors. Thank you very much. I will be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Stay with me. Cheers. Hi, everybody. Your old friend Doug Billings here, coming to you from smack dab in the middle of the fruited plain. Mike Lindell, a friend of mine. Mike has come to all of the conferences, the Determined Patriotism conferences that I've given across the country, and I want to help him out too, him and his employees. In the face of all that he's been through, they have tried to cancel him yet again, ladies and gentlemen. MyPillow.com, promo code Billings. For everything you need, from pillows to sheets to towels, even a dog bed. I've got my son Michael's dog, who's a service dog, a yellow lab, great dog named Jet. Jet has 2 pet beds, one upstairs, one downstairs. He's loving life. They're the best dog beds in the world. The sheets are the best, towels. I mean, the mattress topper. Check out the mattress topper. It's like sleeping on a brand new mattress. I'm not kidding you. MyPillow.com, promo code Billings, ladies and gentlemen. Believe it, for the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hi, everybody. Well, here I am on the set of my show, The Right Side. This is where it all happens. This is where you and I meet shoulder to shoulder to try to retrieve the Republic away from the grip of the Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. And it's where the people who watch and listen to this program become the most intellectually mature members in all of podcast land, my friends. Hey, DougBillings.us is my website. I have a favor. You know, I never charge you for this show. I'd like you to prayerfully consider heading over to DougBillings.us and click on the donate tab to set up a recurring monthly donation. It's how I produce the show. I don't ever charge you for this show. So what is the truth? What is the analysis of the real state of play in America and around the world worth to you? 5, 10, 20, 100, 200 bucks a month? Whatever you can offer. This is how I produce the show. It's just me over here. There's no huge organization. I'm not monetized on social media. I am a crowd-funded show, and I am actively seeking sponsors. I would love for you to be one. DougBillings.us, ladies and gentlemen. Prayerfully consider it. God bless you. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings. Doug Billings, the shining light of truth and American exceptionalism.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Right Side with Doug Billings coming to you from smack dab in the middle of the fruited plain. Thank you very much for being here with me. We stand shoulder to shoulder, ladies and gentlemen, and during times like this, when we see these kinds of tragedies, especially with children, especially in schools, we stand shoulder to shoulder. We meet in determined prayer. It works. That's where we begin. And we meet also with determined patriotism, and we're going to see these things through. I'm pointing out to you that the catalyst behind these kinds of things is in part largely, if not completely, due to the policies and the platforms and the politics set forth by the radical liberal movement, the anti-American movement in America. They are not a pro-America party, these radical left liberals. Again, look at what they do. Chaos and crisis purposefully set in motion. The border, again, it's the biggest example we have this year. It's the preeminent example of chaos in our republic, and it's done on purpose. This is how they accelerate their plan. You know, their plan is that America is not destined to remain the same in their eyes. America needs to be fundamentally transformed, right? So this violence and this chaos and crisis that they purposefully set in motion in their mind and according to their playbook accelerates the process of transforming America and transforming it from what? It begs the question, from what are they transforming America? We all know, you and I as patriots, we think of America and a few things come to mind, and we understand what she is. We understand the history behind the flag, right? Behind our republic. But they want to transform it. They truly believe, they truly do, that by creating crisis, by creating chaos, that they're going to expedite the drive of the American people towards this fictitious myth of needing big government to rescue us. That's where they want you to go. That's where they want the fear that they try to instill in you to lead you to big government. Only big government can protect you, in their view. That's exactly what they want. Big government. And it's exactly what the founding fathers did not want. Liberals believe that with enough chaos and crisis set in motion, that they can begin to convince people all throughout the republic that our fundamental rights to, for example, to bear arms can be more easily chipped away and eventually canceled if we're just frightened enough. They do not understand, you and I. That's not how we react. But the other people in this country, there are a lot of people, and you know it because you see what I see. It's unbelievable and it's puzzling how so many people can apparently support this radical left movement, but there is a significant number of people who do. But the radical left doesn't understand, especially when we're talking about rights. Rights come to us from God. There is no question about that. We all, as American patriots and conservatives, understand that. We realize it. It's part of the truth that we've always believed. But the radical left doesn't. And they do not understand the words, shall not be infringed. Those words cement our right to bear arms in all circumstances. The right to bear arms shall not be infringed. And words matter. But, as I said, with chaos and with crisis comes fear. And the radical left use fear to drive a wedge between us, between you and me and other members of our society. And they do that with the intent of supplanting our rights with their decisions of what rights we are to have and what rights we are not to have. Free speech is under a dramatic attack in today's world, if you have not noticed. And I know, because you watch this program, you're members of the most intellectually mature audience in the world, ladies and gentlemen. You get it. But free speech is under attack. Look what's going on in the UK and parts of Europe. You can't post your opinion on Facebook without being threatened to be put in jail. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have already said that free speech isn't a guaranteed right. They've said it out loud. It's not a matter of an opinion. It's a matter of fact. They will make the decisions, the radical left, if given the chance, if put in power. They will make the decision as to what rights we have and which rights we don't. And we see around us this purposeful crisis, this purposeful chaos throughout the history of the radical left movement in America. It is what they do. From the very beginning, I could quote to you issues and circumstances from the Frankfurt School that infiltrated and brought in and imported radical liberal socialists into this country. We could talk about any number of groups, Black Lives Matter, a domestic terror group, or Antifa, or whatever. We can talk about the left-leaning agenda and what they try to do, their bullet points about how they want to transform America. But it's how the radical left have done it from the very beginning. Saul Alinsky, Rules for Radicals, that kind of thing. They've always, the radical left, have always provided support to radical groups. Black Lives Matter, in recent times, Antifa. You see organizers running on the streets during the summer of 2021 in Minneapolis, Minnesota, with Governor Tim Walz. There were paid actors on the streets inciting the violence, coordinating. Again, you think I say these things and I'm kidding, but I'm not. The pallets of rocks, bricks, and stones that were delivered to street corners in downtown Minneapolis and other cities within blue states. They were actually delivered, set up, and coordinated, planned to be thrown and used in the riots. Throw the rocks, bricks, and stones through storefront windows, start the chaos, get the Molotov cocktails going, burn the American flag, march, spray paint, topple statues, rape, murder, pillage, commit arson, and anarchy. All of it. But the radical left movement has always been about that, providing support to these kinds of radical groups. Whether or not it's Black Lives Matter or Antifa of today, gay and lesbian liberation movements, left-wing, environmentalist wacko groups, all of which are steeped in socialism and their influences. They have created, because of the influence they have in this country, the birthing of such organizations as the American Civil Liberties Union, an organization that protects radical liberal organizers and leaders, protects them from legal action. That's why, folks, it's why riots erupt on college campuses, even today, within our country's inner cities, most usually, and almost always within blue states. This goes back to the 1960s, college campus riots and so forth. But it was always instigated by the radical left. And it doesn't just include the students in that case, university professors and presidents, as you've seen in recent months and years, who have become indoctrinated to socialist, communist, Marxist ideologies, and who are abject kooks with regards to how they view the world. Yep, they have made inroads. They have done it. And they've done it primarily because people like you and me, but who have left-leaning tendencies, got involved in their local levels and and took over educational institutions, school boards, etc. We understand this, right, folks? We know that they got involved, their local levels. And now we look around and it seems sometimes that all of this happened overnight. But it's been going on for decades. And we are waking up to it. And that's a good thing, because it's only we, the people, who can stop it. President Trump, no matter how important he may be to our cause of conservatism, is not the one who will stop all of this. It is you and me taking action within our local levels of government. All right, more to talk about all of this, ladies and gentlemen. The tragedy today explained behind the veil of the policies, the platform, and the politics of the radical left communist socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. Believe it. All right, stay with me. I'll be right back. Cheers. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the set of my show. Coming to you, as I always do, from smack dab in the middle of the fruited plain. And I want to talk to you about EMP, electromagnetic pulse. Now, these things can happen from the sun in nature and naturally, but they can also happen through man-made devices made by people who don't like us very much. And thanks to Kamala Harris, our failed border czar, we've got millions of people in this country who don't like us. Thank you very much, Kamala. Well, EMP Shield is a device like this one here that hooks up to your breaker box in your home, and it prevents your home and your electrical system from being fried in case of an electromagnetic pulse. There's a smaller version that you can put on the battery of your vehicle, so it is also protected. So head over to empshield.com, promo code Doug, ladies and gentlemen, empshield.com, promo code Doug. Believe it, for the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
We live in uncertain times. In fact, we live at a time when our own governments all over the world are warning us that there could be big problems with our power grid. World War III seems to be right on the horizon. Let me ask you this. Do you have a satellite phone? Should communications go down with cell towers? Do you have a satellite phone to get a hold of that college student or your spouse who travels, whatever it might be, to get a hold of your senior adult parents? We have satellite phones at worldviewtalk.com, and you get the satellite phone for free when you sign up for their very reasonable payment programs for the service. Sign up for the service with a reasonable contract, get the satellite phone for free. Worldviewtalk.com. You'll also find they have, well, what I now have, which is a solar generator. Yeah, I have a gas generator, an LP propane generator, but what if that goes down? I want to back up to my backup. So I now have a solar generator as well. You'll find them at worldviewtalk.com. Check it out today, worldviewtalk.com.
Doug Billings, driving the left crazy with the truth.
Hi, everybody, welcome back. The Right Side with Doug Billings, and that's what we do over here, dealing in the truth. We do deal with what is the correct state of play in America, the reasons behind what we see, and today looking at what we saw in Georgia. And reminding you that if you don't mind, head over to dougbillings.us. Prayerfully consider supporting the program by setting up a monthly recurring donation. Doesn't have to be a huge amount. Whatever you can afford will help. I'm actively seeking a new sponsorship program. We are a crowd-funded program. I can only produce the show with your help. And so I'm asking just to consider what you might feel the truth is worth to you. I don't charge you to watch the program. You can always watch it for free. But just go over to dougbillings.us, click on the donate tab, and it's fairly intuitive over there. You can set something up on a monthly recurring basis. I appreciate you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not a salesperson by nature. It's always tough for me to make this pitch to you, but I appreciate it very much, and I hope that you do visit over there at dougbillings.us. Also, the phone lines. We're going to kick those things open now. If you want to get in and be part of the conversation, 901-316-8404, 901-316-8404. Ladies and gentlemen, to talk about the topics of the day. So, again, the radical left desire and goal to implement and create radical chaos and crisis throughout the country dates way, way back. And they have done this and it takes place not only historically, like we've seen, in the 1960s, we hearken back to the college campus riots. We see those today. Even this week, the first week of school up at Columbia University in New York, again, the pro-Hamas groups out protesting and so forth, spray painting buildings, toppling statues, conducting violence and arson, just what the radical liberal playbook has always called for. And you can bet that the radical left liberal hierarchy, that includes Kamala Harris, it includes Tim Walz, they do what they can in almost every case to support radical left violence and chaos. They do whatever they can to support radical left, commu-socialist, as I call them, group activity. All of that seeking to undermine the United States, our political system, and our economic system. That is the radical left playbook. That's what they mean when they said in Barack Obama, again, the first one to say it, they want to fundamentally transform America. Research groups, research these radical left groups, the Tides Foundation and the Tides Center. All of this is encapsulated in this, what is often referred to as a quiet revolution. The radical left didn't come into power with guns, right, and arms. They didn't. That's why it's a quiet revolution. They had a revolution at the local level of government. They got involved, and we conservatives, this is tough truth, and it's tough love, we conservatives have not been, historically speaking, actively involved in significant numbers in our local levels of government. And that's why 2020 happened, and it seems like it was just all of a sudden sprung on us. What? This cheating actually goes on to this degree? How did they do it? How did they get these machines in place so quickly? What happened? Well, they've been working on that for decades. And in fact, I've said it on the program before, for 126 years, the radical left, way back to the days when Andrew Carnegie, John Rockefeller, and John Dewey all got together, all of them socialists, pooled their money and began to infiltrate and take over American institutions, especially education and media, the news, etc. And they indoctrinated youth who grew up to become the radicalized Yale presidents and Harvard presidents that we see in these congressional hearings, who are absolutely kooks, ladies and gentlemen. But it is all part of their plan. This quiet revolution, this quiet transformation of America, fundamentally transforming her away from the divine providence of God and the intent of the founding fathers. There was a poll, now this is some years ago, back in 2019, not that long ago, but Gallup did a poll among all registered Democrats. And this probably will not surprise you. Maybe it will. But in that poll in 2019, among all registered Democrat voters, 57% of them actually favor some sort of socialist takeover of the American government. 57%, folks. This is a real crisis. And it's something that reasonable people have to wake up. It's why Elon Musk is so passionate now for the conservative movement in America. The reason that they're having some degree of success in the radical left is that the majority of Americans, and I mean this with all due respect, the majority of Americans out there don't know the full scope and the full impact of what a socialist system of government would have on their lives. They just don't. Our educational system is to a degree responsible for that, but also people become complacent in their lives, and they're not like you and me. They don't look. Before 2020, I wasn't awake, quote unquote, as we say today either. I was in corporate America, just kind of, going along. Life is normal. Wasn't really. I mean, I was always into politics. Always followed Rush Limbaugh and all that. Listened to him religiously, but was not awake to the depth, width, and breadth of what we now call the deep state. And we really do have President Trump to thank for that. Of all of the things, all of the accomplishments that President Trump gave us during his 4 years in office, I think that one, the calling out, the identification of, the description of the evil and the depth, width, and breadth of the deep state is President Trump's greatest contribution. There are literally dozens and dozens of others, but if I were forced to rate them, that would be, I think, on my list as number one. He identified and called out the deep state. And I don't remember a time prior to Trump. I'm not saying it wasn't the case, but I just don't recall using the term deep state before Trump. Not saying that I didn't, but I just don't recall, at least to the degree that we use it today. And so it was a great contribution. He called it out, the deep state, the swamp. And we know that there are people in both parties that are members of it. We have the radical left liberal group, the Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat folks. We also have the Rhino class, the Republicans in name only. And so we tackle these issues as best we can, but we have to stay focused on our local level of government. Forget Washington, D.C. We begin to change the course of the republic at our local levels of government, in the county, within the state you live. It's really that fundamental. So a lot of people awake, A lot of people now taking action. This is what gives me hope in this election year, that there's multiple dozens of millions of people who are now awake to election integrity issues, who will be at the polls, who will be watching, preventing the shutdown of the polling facility because of this mythical, toilet line broke. We got a flood, the toilet broke. No, we're staying with you. We're going to keep an eye. And there's millions of those folks around the country. But I digress. Remember, Obama, the first one. He was the first one to formally come out and say that America needs to be fundamentally transformed. And when you think about that, when you think about how audacious, how dastardly that statement is, it makes my blood boil. America, ladies and gentlemen, is divinely inspired by God. Our founding documents, thank you very much, are inspired by God and written by men. How dare Barack Obama or anyone suggest that America needs to be fundamentally transformed? That is a lie. It's a fiction. It is absolutely not true. The radical left liberal mantra, remember this one? Build back better. Probably started back in the days of Obama's early presidency. Build back better is all about the destruction of what we know as America. That's what it is, the destruction of America. They do that. The radical left, they make these fancy, seemingly, benign mantras and these catchphrases. Build back better sounds so lovely. What it means is that's how that they want to fundamentally transform America. And although they didn't use this first word in public because they left it out of the conversation in public, but behind closed doors, the word that came first in that mantra was the word destroy. Destroy, then build back better. Of course, in the radical left liberal image is what they meant. Destroy. I told you that. I was the first podcaster in 2021 to tell you that the word destroy was left out intentionally when they talk about these things in public. The radical left liberal mantra is, in its complete form, destroy, build back better. That's their fundamental transformation of America. That's how they will accomplish it. You've got to destroy it first, and then you fundamentally transform it by building back better. Make it sound pleasant. Make it sound as nice and comfortable and as benign as you can. But underneath the words build back better is the destruction of the American Republic. And that's what the radical left is after. And this all goes back to my point about what we saw happen today. Part of the formula, part of the recipe of fundamentally transforming America or destroying it and building it back better in the liberal view is to incite chaos and crisis. The violence that we see on the streets of America today, most of it is inspired and enabled by the policies of the radical left commune socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. The laws that we have on the books, ladies and gentlemen, the laws that we have on the books are not used when liberals are involved to their full extent. Violent criminals are purposefully let off easy, because the radical liberal left, this radical liberal movement in America, wants violence on our streets. And they want it in our schools, because they believe that it will frighten us so much that we will run to big government, giving up our rights along the way and seeking federal protection. That's what they're banking on. That's from their playbook. It's been that way from the very beginning of the liberal movement in America. The Democrat Party, the Ku Klux Klan, remember? Chaos, crisis, riots, anarchy, murder, lynching. part of the same playbook that they've carried through to this day. And so I'm on a mission with all of you. And again, I'm honored and I'm proud to stand with you shoulder to shoulder as we continually, day in and day out, whether on a program like this or when we engage with each other on social media, to tell the truth, to spread the truth, to engage in the truth. And the truth is that we need to be motivated by what we see today to reclaim our republic away from the grip of the radical communist socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, to rise up together, shoulder to shoulder, and vote to never give up that right, that most precious right, second only to the right to life, the right to vote. We don't let anyone talk us out of it. We don't let anyone take it away. It comes to us from God, and we do not honor God if we surrender the rights that he's given us. So regardless, if you think it's rigged, get out and vote. We have a patriotic duty to engage in the rights that God gave us. We do not honor him if we withdraw. Okay, up against another break, ladies and gentlemen. Continuing to remind you about DougBillings.us. Please head over to the website, DougBillings.us. Prayerfully consider, please, supporting the program over there with a monthly recurring donation. Don't charge you for the program. Just decide prayerfully what the truth and what the commentary about the state of play in America is worth to you. DougBillings.us. I would appreciate it if you head over there, check out the donate tab, and just prayerfully consider whatever you can do to help me continue to produce and deliver the program. I'll be right back with the final moment with you right after this. Cheers.
Hello, I'm Brandon House, and I want to tell you about Numi. This is a swish. You just take 2 capfuls, swish it around your mouth for 3 to 4 minutes, and you're absorbing, according to the studies, glutathione. Now, you don't need to take my word for it. There are over 162,000 studies on PubMed on the power of glutathione. It is a powerful molecule that studies show detoxes our cells. Some studies even show that glutathione might remove mercury from our brains, help to prevent things like Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. Now, look, I'm not making claims. I'm just telling you what the research is showing about the powerful molecule glutathione. Numi is the product that contains glutathione. Melissa and I swish with this twice a day. We urge you to go to Numi.com/house1. That's Numi, Neumi.com/HOWSE and the numeral 1. Begin finding out about the power of glutathione while also supporting this broadcast network. Thank you. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Melissa and I have been taking Bella Grace, this powerful elixir, since last fall, 2023. The results have been amazing. My hands would crack and bleed, deep cuts and cracks every winter for years. No matter what we did, we couldn't get them to stop cracking and bleeding. This year, I took Bella Grace, no cracking, no bleeding. My acid reflux, gone. Haven't had to take a Pepsid. My hair growth, the last 2 times I had my hair cut, the lady had to use thinning shears on my hair. That's amazing. We've also received incredible feedback from you, our listening audience, and the impact it's had for you. This is loaded with astaxanthin. That's a powerful antioxidant. Collagen, but top grade collagen. Studies show 95% of it is being absorbed in the body because of the way they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. MelissaHouseBG.com.
The Right Side with Doug Billings, where we meet in determined prayer and determined patriotism.
So talking a little bit today about the violence that took place in Georgia and the root cause behind it all, which is the policies, the platform, the playbook of the radical left liberal movement in America. And it makes sense when you look at what they do versus what they say. They are not about joy and happiness, you guys. Not. Can't be. Look, evidence of the obvious sufficient. So this has got to be a motivator for us, though, to get involved in our local level, to fight back. We ended last segment of the program talking about this, the nonsense, the myth of America needing to be fundamentally transformed. That is a fiction. And it is a poverty of thought to think that. It's not true. And you cannot be an American patriot and believe that America needs to be fundamentally transformed. It doesn't jive, it doesn't make sense, it's false. So we have got to get involved. Again, our mantra, we have just two handfuls of weeks before this election. We've got to get involved in our local communities. We've got to vote for America First conservative MAGA candidates in your county, in your state. This is a battle that we can win. And it is not won, by the way, in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. should be the last place on your mind where you would expect change to begin. It will be won with every one of us getting involved in our local counties. You are a patriot soldier in this effort. Ladies and gentlemen, with all seriousness, you are called for a moment such as this. It is up to you to stand shoulder to shoulder with your families, with your friends, with your coworkers, people with whom you go to church, and stand up to the tyranny. And so that we can begin to course correct and stem the tide of this violence. Again, as I said at the very beginning of the program, we will never end violence in this world. It is impossible to do that. And in a free society such as America, unfortunately, violent criminals will have the ability to act out. But we can do much better in stemming the tide of all of that if we would vote people in to our local levels of government who would prosecute these criminals with extreme prejudice to the full extent of the law, no light sentences, no early release dates, hold them in for the full term of the allowable sentence, and work for tougher sentences, perhaps. But we do not need more gun laws. There are more than enough. Again, to my point, if they were just enforced, we would be better off. The truth is, we are in this together, you and I couldn't be more proud to have been a part of and to continue to be a part of this show, to continue to meet with you every day right here, and to discuss these things, to see you on social media, to see you at the events that we travel to throughout the country. Don't lose hope. Don't lose heart. These conversations that we have are not ultimately meant to bring you down. They're meant to lift you up. We see and identify problems. We talk about the root causes behind them. In this case today, the radical left policies, platform, and politics that allow violence and chaos and crisis to continue to flourish in America because the radical left, their hierarchy and their members, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, work to put forth chaos, crisis, and they do it on purpose because they want you to be afraid. Do not be afraid. Do not give in. Be strong and resilient. We will prevail in all of this. We have got to work hard, and America is definitely in a nightmare, but she is not on her deathbed. And President Trump is not the one person who's going to save us all. The people who are going to do the saving are we, the people. We are the ones who are going to get it done. So we're going to work to get Trump elected, most definitely. But do not lose heart. It is not him with whom the safety and the preservation of our republic is he's not the one responsible. He's a figurehead of we, the people. It's us that are going to make this thing turn around. And he will do it with our help. All right, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget DougBillings.us. Please head over there. Prayerfully consider that monthly recurring donation. I am excited to see you Monday through Friday right here on all of the social media platforms. I appreciate you. Reach out, contact me. I'm always grateful to hear from you. We're in this together, my friends. Stay strong, chin up, and we are going to prevail. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.